Meanwhile, the rest of us can fucking fix water heaters, you know, and make just as much money, do just as well, and not have to fucking kowtow to a goddamn audience. Who wants to kowtow to an audience? Why are you doing that if you have a real opinion, you know?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, yeah. I mean, what do you have to do though? What's the price you have to pay for what? You know, where's the casting couch and you know all that kind of crap. So I can understand making some calculations. I mean, I've let stuff like that roll through my head. You know, whether I should modify my temperament and change how I approach my audience and blah blah blah. You know, in the interest of having a broader audience, and you know, because it is an objective worth having, in my opinion. So, I mean, I can understand part of that, but again, it's this charisma thing. It's always a tricky. It's you know, it's hard to, you can't deny it. There's just an impulse, these little subtle messages that some people project, and maybe he's just got it. You know, he's just got some sort of whatever it is.
Well, the thing about The Amazing Atheist is that, okay, listen, he's you know, he's anti-intellectual, dropped out of school, evidently, but he still will use, you know, 15-syllable words and refer to Camus or whatever it is that he refers to, and he's obviously likes the intellectual kind of, you know, label. I mean, nobody thinks of him that way, but he uses all these intellectual, you know, references, and yeah. So that's the complicated part. I mean, it's really better to just you know, Amazing Atheist likes to offend his audience, but that's not enough. You have to actually contradict your audience. You know, you can't just be offensive and your audience goes, well, ha ha, I'm going to watch South Park in a couple of minutes. You know, it has to be like that's what you really believe. If you need to start another channel to explain that, well, hey, you just like smoking clove cigarettes and you know, you don't actually have a cause and you don't really care and you grew up in the South, so you hate, you know, you hate religious people because it's easy to offend them. I mean, the thing about The Amazing Atheist, too, is that this whole bully thing to me is his summation. You know, this guy grew callous because he was bullied. Let's face it, you know, it's a reaction to him being bullied. And yet he has no sympathy, he has no insight on the thing that caused him to be the way he was. And that's what's really unforgivable. You know, I love the personal expression. I hate when people get halfway to their personal expression and go off in the direction that the audience that they have nurtured, you know. This guy, I mean, is so enslaved to that, and it's such a low watt level that it sort of shows why, you know, if you're going to have people, if you're going to try to say, hey, maybe I can make a difference if I get enough people listening to me and I'll say a few things I don't necessarily believe because then I'll listen, then, you know, you better have a million people watching you. 100,000 subscribers is nothing. That, I know internet. 100,000 people subscribe to you means 10,000 people are actually fucking watching you. You're going to get 5,000 views, and what the hell does that add up to? Nothing.
Well, it's a YouTube audience
the other
too.
thing is that just to broaden it, is that in the YouTube or the internet in general,
what you just said doesn't really make sense. A lot of TJ's videos get more than 200,000 views, not 5,000. Or did I just misconstrue what you were saying?
Yeah, well, what's the average,
well, really,
though?
when he's talking about things he says he actually cares about?
Well, those, yeah, the TJ,
you know,
does Life channel. But, yeah, I say that, I also don't buy that really argument, just because he did that because, you know, he wanted to be more, you know, expressive, and he knew his audience wasn't going to appreciate it, so what's the point? So he put it somewhere where only the audience who cared to listen to it would be exposed to it. So that I can understand. I mean, I've sort of tried to segregate some of my content, so, I mean, you know, I can't be a hypocrite on that score. But I think the more important thing was what you're getting to
Well,
with his
you segregate
personality
your
and what,
content
his
because there's
reaction.
different issues. There's people that aren't interested in different issues. That's entirely different. That's entirely different. You know, segregating because you're like, hey, I have 5 different issues and I've noticed that people, you know, are interested in one. That's different than what TJ is doing. Totally different.
Yeah, well, like I said, yeah, I'm. It's different, but it's also, like I said, there's some similarity. I think in what he's the angst that he's reacting to. I mean, he wants to be more than he is, and you know, he knows his audience isn't up to that, or he wants to do more than he can, and so yeah, he's, you know, going to try. And the fact that it didn't catch on, I think he, you know, he hasn't invested much in those other channels. Um, but the more important thing was that when you were talking about the bullying thing, because I think it's very revealing. Um, because yeah, I think that's part of that psychology, though, is that, see, he has such an inflated opinion of himself that he believes that the abuse was an integral part of him becoming the great, amazing atheist. I mean, Tarosha, he wouldn't be this magnificent creature that he is today if it wasn't for being molested, if it wasn't for being bullied. And so he almost thinks that those are positive human characteristics, that you need to somehow go through that gauntlet to be this magnificent, you know, Thunderdome character he perceives himself as.
But you know,
I mean, it's that lousy reverse psychology thing that happens, you know, where the molester turns into the molester. I mean, the molestee. You know, the victim becomes the predator.
Right. Well, that's what offends me most of all, is that I think this is a huge thing, is that, you know, some people are abused and become abusers, and some people are abused and become, you know, activists against the abuse. And I have no qualms about which one of those that I actually respect, you know. And TJ has gone in exactly the wrong direction.
I agree with you on that. I don't like these recent
And
videos about bullying at all, but I have to say, you guys are kind of not paying attention to some of the good things that TJ has done with his position. Didn't he raise like $75,000 for like rebuilding New Orleans or something like
Oh,
that?
and didn't he do it in the most disgusting manner? Okay, he posted a blog post 2 weeks after that, revealing that it was all Halcyon. He dragged him into it. He had no interest in the bullshit at all. He didn't want to have anything to do with this crap. He, you know, completely revealed the fact that it was all just PR. It was Halcyon. It was his PR guy. This is what he's got to do. He didn't want to go to these places. He didn't want to talk to these people. And if you saw the last one he did, when he raised a little bit of money for some other charity, you know, the last run through, and he's sitting there petting a goat and interviewing a woman about a horse that has a bad eye. This is the same guy who was talking, you know, about how suffering is magnificent in animals and all this other. I mean, the grotesque hypocrisy, duplicity of playing that game, and the fact that he gets away with it just stuns me.
you
I
know,
mean,
the
just
so-called
completely
atheist
playing the audience
community
there.
is a joke. Now, it might have a positive impact because, like I've said, you know, I believe we need some atheist, you know, activism, and I personally am not that interested in it. But you know, it anyway. I just think that the low wattage internet fame corrupts really quickly. You know, getting featured or anything like that corrupts really quickly. You know, it's never going to happen until the society's ready for it. You're not affecting that as directly as you think, and frankly, you know what? I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit classist because I just think some kid that was able to do this into his 20s, living with his parents, making videos out of his garage, is not the way that's going to be successful. I mean, maybe it's a classist thing. Maybe I'm against upper middle class kids and their fucking angst that I'm so sick of when they've never had to fucking endure anything whatsoever real.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a lot of, but he's also, yeah, he's like, I mean, there's a hypocrisy in his life affirming jargon at the same time he's pissing on it, So, I mean, there's a weird, incomprehensible aspect to that I can't, really get. This idea, because one minute he's as dark can be, and the next minute he's talking all this fluffy, never say die, artist kind of nonsense, yeah, it just there's well, whatever, the whole thing. He's always been a bit of a hypocrite, in my opinion. It just that hasn't changed. He talks out of both sides of his face.
Watched him in probably a year until the bully thing, and frankly that was because I checked out your video and I saw you criticizing the bully, and I thought, well, I'll watch this because I love to troll bullies, and I watched it and I trolled all the bullies, because worse than a bully is the fucking bully victims in the audience sniggering, giving energy to the bully, and that was just on parade there in his among his fan base.
Is trolling people who are doing
And
something really like weird and fringy and kind of creepy technically bullying? Because there have been times where I've been on Second Life that I've like gone in where people are doing creepy sexual Sonic the Hedgehog role plays and like, crashed the sim. Is that bullying?
I think it is. I think it is. You can forgive yourself for it. You can say, hey, I have this urge, and at least I've chosen the right victims. But it is. It is. I mean, I started to have a real world anger, angst, tension about simply realizing that I was trolling a bunch of bullies. I felt okay because these people need to be called on it. They need to be drawn out and all of this other stuff. But I think it is trolling. Not that it's wrong, but yeah, it's trolling.
Yeah, it never really occurs to me. I mean, it's funny, I'm kind of known for conflict, and conflict is, I have no hunger for it. It's very frustrating for me. And it's just kind of funny that people just say, "No, you enjoy this, and you thrive on this, and blah blah." And it's like, I hate it.
The curse for me is I see the potential. I'm kind of like a Will Rogers, appreciator, where I too have never met a person I don't like, and it's like it sucks because people aren't really worthy of liking all the time. But I see all this potential that's wasted. I see people that are willing, so many people not willing to engage in conflict or be offensive, and you see people doing it, and you want to go, great, yeah, and then in the end, they just want to fit in. And it's like, fuck that. Why do you want to fit in? That's not where your fame, such as it is, came from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. On the other hand, maybe there's an actual topic.
Yeah, I just have, I mean, it's all like some sort of necessity project thing. This is my mission, and yeah, and I'd rather just watch a movie. I mean, I'd rather get lost in some kind of art or some sort of completely introverted, introspective kind of behavior than this. So it is kind of strange. I mean, it's almost like I'd rather, be making YouTube videos that are more of a artistic expression, more of a play or a drama or some sort of piece of art, than just arguing. But I chose maybe I made the wrong choice, or I'm not a good enough artist.